if we're paying attention to anything happening in the public sphere today, we know there's a problem at the interface between scientific conversation and public conversation. And since most of us are fortunate that we have lived through the COVID-19 pandemic, we've had a perfect example of how science and public discussion can sort of part ways or become highly contentious. And this is exactly the case for animal welfare. Oftentimes, by the time the scientists can get a word into the conversation, people have already formed their opinions, and so science is rushing to catch up. And then many times people are rejecting the science because they believe that they know better and they feel the way they feel. Their values are coming into play and maybe they don't align with the science, right? So that makes conversation and communication even more challenging. So why is welfare such a contentious point in society today? Because most people will tell you, even if they don't have animals, that they really want animals to be treated well, right? And so there's three key components that are coming into play. One is there's potentially an ethics and a values clash. Maybe it might simply be how we talk about values. We'll come back to that. Certainly there are differences in what people know about the subject. And then of course, we've got different people, different perceptions, all of that coming into play, tied back to values, also tied back to what individuals know about animals and their welfare needs. Part of the problem, and we don't talk about it enough, is animal welfare is in and of itself sort of a hybrid disciplinary area, right? There is an ethics problem embedded in every animal welfare question. Ultimately, welfare is about animal quality of life. We're trying to answer the question of what quality of life should an animal have? We're just trying to do it with science. However, anytime you see part of the sentence that looks like should in there is an inherently subjective notion coming into play, and it's going to, when it comes to animal welfare, involve values related to what is better or what is worse for the animal. So I've already pointed out welfare is a hybrid between ethics and science. We're trying to address what quality of life do we owe animals. And now the secondary question that's filtering in for many people, highlighted by philosophers and many groups who are concerned about what is happening in animal agriculture today in terms of how we raise the animals. The question is agriculture offering a fair deal to the animals themselves, right? And so what I like to break this down to audiences, it works out to this. Does animal agriculture's definition of success match that of today's target audiences, right? And here's where I think we run into a number of disconnects, all of which come back to this sort of hybrid question of what are you talking about when it comes to animal welfare? What's important to you versus what am I talking about, or what is a farmer or producer or a corporation talking about when it comes to animal welfare? Because what we should remember is there are constraints of science, and scientists need to be humble enough to remember this, and all of those who work with animals should as well. Science can answer some really important questions. Science can tell us what the effects are of housing pigs, for instance, in a particular system, right? What science can't answer is what's acceptable quality of life for the pig in that system, right? So we have to bring both of these conversations together. And frequently in animal agriculture, we're not doing that. We're answering question one, what are the effects? How do we make things work? What are the impacts on economics, on the management, on the logistics? What are the impacts on the welfare of the animals themselves? But what we're not getting to is the question that is really being posed to John Q. Public, right? What's the right thing to do?